Cody here from Precision Goalie Institute, working on more video content with John Stevenson regarding the oxygen advantage and how he's taking 40 years as a goalie coach, and now psychologist, and putting that into a goalie context. I wanted to kind of show John unscripted, less clinical, in a video series that we'll call Mindset Mondays. The guy's got a lot of cool stories with some of those NHL clients he's worked with, the teams he's coached, and again, going back 40 years, being a goalie himself. He's invested in a lot of cool technology with his Cognitive-Perceptual Training systems and his staff that are trained in using this technology. The goalies that we coach that have that extra edge on the ice comes a lot from their on-ice work, but certainly their off-ice work, and those that stand above their peers, they work with John. So there is quite a bit of proof in the pudding, as we say. So let's go find out from John Stevenson a little bit more about mindset. Hey, John.
Morning, Cody.
Can you teach me about mindset?
Absolutely.
So you could be breathing.
Breathe slowly and then be able to I've always been very, very fascinated with the psychology of success, really looking at a variety of people and businesses across a wide variety of industries. And I've always, been very interested in what makes them, be successful. I realized that I've been in the goalie world for over 40 years as a player, as a coach, technical coach, now as a mental coach. And one of the things that I found, Cody, over the years is that when I first got into the goalie world, very much technical skills, your stance, your movement. And when I first got involved in the goalie world, like I said, it was more the technical. And over the years, what I found was they'd be technically good, but then they had no oomph behind their push, or they had no oomph behind their recovery, or they couldn't go for any kind of length of time, which then led me into the world of the physical world. So your conditioning, your speed, agility, quickness, your core, upper body, lower body, balance, flexibility. And I saw a ton of goalies who really worked on that, really worked on their technical part. But then you would put them in a game and they'd really struggle. And I couldn't understand why. And, like here they've got all the quote unquote tools. They had all these things, but they still weren't coming up with the save. So then I started to delve into that. And I'm a big believer that, hockey is a game of patterns. And if you, the best goalies in the world can read the play. But a lot of that had never been taught to goalies, the actual skill of anticipation, being able to see, read, and react. And so that's when I, way back when, got into game film and breaking it down. And now, the technology is unbelievable in terms of being able to break down plays and analyze them. We had those three pieces in place. So we had, the technical part, we had the physical part, we had what I call the tactical part of the wheel. But then one of the things that happened was I had goalies where all of a sudden, if they didn't come up with the save and they got really rattled by it, then it was done. The game was over. And that's when I got, involved in the mental side of the game, the being able to be, in the moment, being able to let go of things. Through the performance wheel, just year after year, it's continuing to evolve. But the hub of the wheel, as much as I'm now a mental coach, the hub to me is the most critical thing, and that's lifestyle. And so, again, if you're going to the gym and you haven't had a good night's sleep, or you're going to your goalie coach that day and you haven't had good, sleep and rest and recover, what are you going to get out of that session? So for the lifestyle, one of the things that we look at is, rest, recovery, and sleep, I believe is the most important one. And then we look at your nutrition. So I've always used the metaphor, think of your body like a high performance car, like a Ferrari, Lamborghini. Well, they're not just going to put ordinary fuel in it. And the best athletes, the Tom Brady's, the elite goaltenders in the world, they really take care of their body, in terms of what they're putting into their body. The hydration, critical, key component. If you're not, get the electrolytes, you're not drinking a lot of water, your eye-hand coordination will go out the window. The other big thing that I've seen more and more come in the last 6 years is electronics. A lot of the parents, a lot of the kids don't understand the phone, gaming, YouTubing, literally what this does to the brain. And, it's scary, Cody. Like, I've had kids now that are 15, 16 years old, and they're on their phone more than 8 hours a day. Fortnite, Minecraft, Call of Duty. I could go on and on about, the negative side effects. We could literally have a show on that. But the elite goalies, they realize that, like everything else, everything in moderation. And so the other key component is, I call it the reset button. A lot of the times, as an athlete, if you look at the top guys across, all the sports, NBA, NBL, Major League Baseball, you name it. In terms of the lifestyle, I think it's the number one key factor. And there's just times where you need to just absolutely get away from the game. Be with your family or do things that just have nothing to do with the game. We'll show you the wheel, but what I want guys to do is have more of a balanced approach to their training. And what I've seen over the years is, if I said to a young 10-year-old, what are you going to do in the gym today? Like right now, in light of the pandemic, there's a lot of the kids and teams that are doing these body weight workouts. And they know very specifically, there's more information now. If one of the kids said, I'm going to the ODR, he can go on to YouTube. There's so many goalie coaches. Back in my day, there was 2 goalie coaches in Western Canada. There was the IGS and the Okanagan Hockey School. That was it. That's all we had, and we had it for the summertime. Come wintertime, we were on our own. But now kids can go to the ODR and they know very, very specific things that they can work on, because there's just so much resources, information. And what I want to do is, I want to do the same thing. A lot of kids, and I still believe a lot of goalie coaches, not to be hard on goalie coaches, but they really put so much emphasis on the top 2 quadrants of the wheel. And a lot of the kids, if I ask them, okay, the metaphor that I use is skill. It just like your puck handling, just like your core, quick feet, tactical and mental skills can be learned and to be developed. Mm-hmm. And so I want kids to know very specific, what they can do. And so when we talk about mindset, there's a lot of goalies in the NHL. There's a lot of, I bet you if I showed this to Tom Brady, he may not even, unbeknownst, he's doing this, but he's never conceptualized it like what I call the performance wheel. One of the reasons why I drew it like a wheel, which I think is so key, is if you have one part of the wheel that's bigger than the other, it doesn't roll very well. Plus, if the hub comes off, then the rest crashes. So what the goal of this Mindset Mondays is, I want to give kids and goalies, from the little guys all the way up to the pros, when we talk about tactical skills, when we talk about mental skills, what are the very specific things that we can do to really develop and hone that game? And especially, I keep coming back right now in light of, the situation around the world with the pandemic. This is, a time where we can really develop these skills where we may have not had the opportunity because we're playing so much. So now we can, my whole philosophy is, I go back, there was last year, Carter got hurt, and Carter Hart got hurt. And just because he was literally off the ice for 5 weeks. Now, in that time, most guys would say, well, you can't do anything. And I'm going to say no. What he did is he actually worked on other parts of his game and really honed those. And so that when he actually came back, he was actually a better goalie than he was prior to the injury. Yep. And so one of the things that when you see the performance wheel, there's a lady by the name of Dina Evans. I'm not quite sure. She still runs a program called Point Guard College. And she came up with the best definition that I personally think I've ever heard of mental toughness. And mental toughness, she had this phrase, mental toughness is what you choose to focus on. And so one of the things I'm really encouraging goalies when they go to look at this performance wheel, the second definition I think of mental toughness that goes with that first one is, where do you suck? Like David Goggins, a very popular gentleman on YouTube right now, former Navy SEAL. One of the things that he advocates, and I 100% agree with him, is don't triple down on your strengths, triple down on your weaknesses. And so when I work with goalies, or any athlete that comes into my door, is you look at each of those quadrants and you say, where do I need to get better? Where do I need to, is it being able to read the play? Is it my body fat's too high? I'm, really good with regards to, playing well, but the moment I get scored on, I struggle. So I really encourage goalies when they go to look at this wheel is you pick one thing, just one thing in each area that you're going to really go and work on. And over time, you're going to start, Tom Brady, he talks about believing in yourself. Well, how do you do that? Well, it's the prep work. It's that quality preparation work. And so if you're working on these things and you see these small improvements, they're going to eventually turn into big gains in being, and again, at the end of the line, what is all of this for? Is to enjoy the game, to have fun, and to stop more pucks. So the framework, I use this, like when I talk about mindset, is I love this metaphor, is if I'm going to build a house, right, I got to build it on a solid foundation. Before I start putting it, if the foundation isn't there, then it's just going to get washed out. So for me, the performance wheel is one of the foundations, so that, and you always hear, players say, I went back to the basics. Well, this is the basics, and it could be starting off with diet. I mean, again, and this is where goalies have to have an open mind. They have to, be, it's tough to hear when certain areas of your game are not great. This is going to sound very arrogant, but I think I'm a way better goalie coach now than I was when I was goalie coaching, because I didn't bring into all those pieces. If somebody and in the Western Hockey League, if you've got issues with your billets, if you've got issues of going on outside of the world of hockey, whether it be family or other relationships, that just in and itself can have a huge impact. And it did. And I wasn't mindful. It was, I hate to say it, but it wasn't until I got out of the goalie coaching world and I started to realize, no, we have to look at it from a broader perspective. We have to look at it from more of a holistic perspective. I mean, I got, an eye-opener, when I was down in the American Hockey League and I was the goalie coach for the Edmonton Oilers farm team, the Hamilton Bulldogs. Here I see one of their goalies going to McDonald's, ordering a Big Mac and fries, right? And that's where I started. It was all these small little things like, what? He can't perform, when he's putting that in his body. And I think for me, I think the other piece that you really bring up, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is there's a very prominent goalie coach in the NHL. Very, very, very good goalie coach. I know myself, Cody, I'm not Adam Francilia. I'm not, a strength and conditioning coach. And I think what has to happen is every good athlete, all the top athletes, they have a team, right? And I think it's often, unfortunately, we don't talk to each other, but I know myself that if it's out of my realm of expertise, then I think that's where you have to park the ego and let it go. Because again, what are we doing this all for? We're doing it to help that athlete to become the best athlete that he can be. So that's where, for me, that's where I will contact a Cody, because he, there's so many things about the technical world now, since I've been out of the game. I try to the best of my ability to keep it up, but there's a lot of things that technically that I don't know. And I think that's where goalie coaches, I've seen goalie coaches try to be mental coaches. Yeah. And I applaud them for that, but then also you got to get to that point where hey, it's out of my area of expertise, and this is where we need to put it on to someone who specializes in that. And I think that's the big thing. I think, yes, goalie coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, working together. I think that's where, as a goalie community, and we look at all these different areas, how can we kind of bring it all together, be respectful, be, what are we doing all of this for? It's to evolve the game, and help the young guys right from the get-go. Just to finish off, and we're going to keep coming back to the performance wheel. And one of the things with this is it's evolving, right? It's again, head trajectory, tibia torso ratio. These are all new things. The oxygen advantage breath work that we're going to get into. More and more athletes are being more open-minded to the practice of mindfulness meditation or other various forms of meditation. There's a lot of, the cognitive-perceptual world. I see that, what my own just personal experience of it now is that if you have two goalies, say they're 12-year-old peewee goalies, and one goalie is doing cognitive perceptual and the other isn't, I just see such a huge difference within a year. And I think the sport, the technology is constantly evolving. And if you're not keeping up, like for me personally, I don't think I'm doing my goalies, I'm deservicing them, because if they go to more and more of these NHL teams now have cognitive perceptual training rooms, and if I'm not getting them ready, when they go to that environment, then I haven't done my job. And just to finish off, I want goalies, I want goalie parents, I want goalie coaches that, whether you use my wheel or not, this is just over the years I've come up with this, but I think there's still too many people out there that, equate goaltending to physical and technical. And I want the whole point of this whole series, Mindset Mondays, is we're going to delve into, okay, what are the mistakes that goalies do with ball drills? What are the mistakes that goalies do with concentration grids? And again, I go back just to summarize. My goalie coach a long, long time ago said, John, I don't care if you go to a strength and conditioning coach, mental coach, vision coach, goalie coach. If they give you a drill and it has no game purpose, that you're never going to use it in a game, then what the heck are you doing it for? So I would encourage all of the goalies, if somebody introduces box breathing, okay, well, where am I going to use this in my game? And I also just, again, outside of it, a lot of my stuff is just your overall happiness and well-being. So when we talk about, the reset button, where you need to just get away from the game. So I think I would just really encourage goalies, if ever and I tell my students this or my clients that if I ever introduce a drill and you really don't understand why I'm asking you to do this, ask questions. And I go back Most goalies now are probably going to have anywhere from 5 to 10 goalie coaches in their career. And, I had one, and it started when I was like 13. Then as I got on, I had a few more goalie coaches. But again, back then, now there's so many goalie schools. And I think it's just really important that we look at it more from a broader perspective. And that's why I think the mindset of having the performance wheel, and that, at certain times you're going to spend more time on one part of the quadrant. Maybe, 1 year you're going to really work on the physical part more than the mental. But it's having this balanced approach. And it sounds goofy. Here I am, a mental coach, and that's what I like to consider myself, a coach, is I don't put the mental game any more important than the physical. I don't put technical more important than tactical. It's a balanced approach, and we want to, really get honest with ourselves, look at where we need to get better. And, I get parents asking me all the time, when should we start the mental program? And I'm like, right from the get-go. And so that we have a balanced approach to all of this training.
There it is, episode 1 of Mindset Mondays. To learn more about John and the work that he's done with some of the goalies in the NHL, AHL, CHL, and so on, visit zoneperformance.ca. It's more than just the certificates and the diplomas that he's got, 40 years in the industry, from playing to pure goalie coaching, and now what he does here at Zone Performance. So him and the team, the Cognitive Perception Room, you've seen all of the tools that we've highlighted before, and we'll show them again. Check it out, zoneperformance.ca, and get locked into his programs.